Hello, viewers. You're welcome to this lecture series on general biology. And in today's lecture, we're going to look at cell structures and organization. In the course of our discussion, we'll look at the cells, the structures of cells, and the organizations of the cell. And we'll also look at the cellular organelles and their functions. Now, what is a cell? The cell is the basic structural, functional, and biological unit of all non-living organisms, or we can say it is the structural, functional, and biological unit of life. It is the smallest unit that life can exist, and it is also referred to as the building block of life. A cell can also be defined as the smallest indivisible unit that life can exist. All cells consist of three parts or components. They consist of 1, the cell wall or membrane, 2, the cytoplasm, and then 3, the nucleus. So the cells consist of 3 components, which are the cell wall or cell membrane, the cytoplasm, and the nucleus. Organisms can be classified as unicellular or multicellular. Unicellular organisms consist of single-celled organisms such as bacteria, the protozoa, some unicellular fungi such as the yeast, and others. While multicellular organisms include plants, animals, multicellular fungi, and others. Now, let us look at the discovery of cells. How were cells discovered? The cell was discovered by Robert Hooke in 1665. Robert Hooke, who was a monk, actually was working with the cork or plant cell. And when he viewed it, he saw some compartments, and he likened such compartments, such cells, to be the rooms in their monastery, and he called such the cells. He was the one that gave that name, cells, to all cellular organisms rather. So basically, he was the first to study cells with lenses. Now, the cell theory. The cell theory first developed in 1839 by Matthias Jacob Sledin and Theodor Swan, states that 1. All living organisms are composed of one or more cells, and that the vital functions of an organism occur within cells. Then the second cell theory states that all cells come from pre-existing cells by cell division. This means that cells basically are formed from pre-existing cells. We were formed from the eggs, the ovules, from our moms that were fertilized and then developed to form us. So all cells come from pre-existing cells. The third cell theory states that all cells contain the hereditary information necessary for regulating cell functions and for the transmission of information or traits from one generation to another. Then the fourth cell theory states that cells are the basic structural and functional units of all organisms. Now, let us look at types of cells. There are 2 types of cells. We have the prokaryotic cells and we have the eukaryotic cells. What are prokaryotic cells? Prokaryotic cells lack membrane-bound nucleus and other membrane-bound organelles, while eukaryotic cells possess membrane-bound nucleus and other membrane-bound organelles like the mitochondria, the Golgi apparatus, the chloroplast, and many other cellular organelles. And eukaryotic cells are more complex than the prokaryotic cells and have more cellular organelles than the prokaryotic cells. Now let us compare prokaryotic cells with eukaryotic cells. The prokaryotic cells are usually mainly bacteria and archaea, while the eukaryotic cells consist of protists, fungi, plants, and animals. Then the size of eukaryotic cells are larger than the prokaryotic cells. Then eukaryotic cells have real nucleus, while prokaryotic cells do not have real nucleus. And prokaryotic cells lack some cellular organelles. The eukaryotic cells have a large number of cellular organelles, much more than those of the prokaryotic cells. Then the means of locomotion of prokaryotic cells is mainly the flagella and the pillar. Then in eukaryotic cells, flagella, cilia, and pseudopodia are usually used for locomotion. The prokaryotic cells do not have mitochondria, chloroplasts, Golgi apparatus, and others, while eukaryotic cells have them. The prokaryotic cells are usually single cells, while the eukaryotic cells are basically known to form cells, colonies, higher multicellular organisms with specialized cells. Okay, so the eukaryotic cells can be multicellular or can be multicellular. Okay, and the cell division in prokaryotic cells is usually by binary fission, while in eukaryotic cells, cell division takes place either through mitosis or meiosis, or through mitosis and meiosis. So basically, those are the distinctions between the prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells. Now let us look at the prokaryotic cells properly. The prokaryotic cell is simpler and therefore smaller than the eukaryotic cell, like in nucleus and most other organelles in eukaryotic cells. There are two types or two kinds of prokaryotes or prokaryotic cells, and the two kinds are bacteria and archaea. Bacteria and archaea. These two prokaryotic cells share similar structures. The nuclear material of prokaryotic cell consists of a single chromosome that is in direct contact with the cytoplasm. It is not enclosed within the nucleus. Here, the undefined nuclear region in the cytoplasm is called the nucleoid. So they do not have a nucleus, but they have a nucleoid, an undefined nuclear region in the cytoplasm. Now, a eukaryotic cell has three architectural regions. A prokaryotic cell has three architectural regions, and the architectural regions are on the outer side, it has the flagella, the pili, which project from the cell's surface. These are structures made of proteins that facilitate movement and communication between cells. Enclosing the cell is the cell envelope, generally consisting of cell wall covering the plasma membrane, and the cell wall basically is made up of peptidoglycan. Inside the cell is a cytoplasmic region that consists the cell genome or the DNA and ribosomes and various sorts of inclusions. So thank you very much for watching this video on the cells, and keep watching more of my videos from my YouTube and TikTok channels.